We live? We're live. What's going on, guys? Happy Thanksgiving. No Kiwi tonight. Kiwi is out of town. I don't know. I think he's visiting his raft down on the other side of the planet or something like that. And then next week he's out too. He's having uh they're doing something on his throat, so he'll be out for a couple of weeks. But look, I'm here, and so are you. So let's do this thing. Greasy Garage, Chongo, what's happening? Remy, what you fixing? Stray Bullet, Nick Bruni, Charlton Zimmerman, Eric's Garage. Hello, everybody. Olive, how are you? Joe K, what's going on, man? Never miss is oh yes. I try not to. I try not to. It's not a holiday today. Actually, in New York, I don't know. I don't know if it's still like that but in New York, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving was like the busiest bar night of the year. This was like forever when I was a kid, and like Wednesday night before Thanksgiving was like party night, and now we just sit in the shop and do lives. Uh, Charlie, what's happening, Charlie? Mitten Made Muscle, Bill McKayska, Stray Bullet, uh, Robin Schubert, Paul P- Pajoey, Pahoey. I'm murdering your name, brother, man. So how's everybody doing tonight? Uh, Paul Cabazola, happy Thanksgiving, brother, man. Uh, yes, Wednesday night before Thanksgiving is number one DUI night. Yeah, that's the way it always was back in ISIS, back in New York. So let's see. So what are you guys thankful for? Right? Okay, I know it has nothing to do with tech, right? What do you? I'm going to tell you what I'm thankful for you guys. I mean, honestly, you guys, all of our viewers, everybody who makes this possible, because this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and it takes all of you to make it possible. And I'm truly thankful and grateful for all of you. So, all right, enough of that shit. What are you guys thankful for? Um, Mexican Spec, what's happening? The amateur night. Uh, Mr. Hanger On, down under the good day. You guys don't do Thanksgiving down there, right? Uh, and Fubar, and I'm always thankful for awesome mods. Fubar, Ari, and Zero. And this Sunday night, I'm really looking forward to this. This Sunday night, it's going to be our mods who've never made an appearance. They've been with us for 5 years, 5 years, literally hundreds of lives, right? Not just our Sunday nights and our Wednesday nights, but all these ones we did in between. And back during the lockdown, we were doing lives 7 nights a week. And these guys have been literally hundreds of lives, and we have never been together on the same thing. So we're going to be all the four of us and Kiwi. Kiwi's going to be joining us from his remote location, wherever the hell he is, and it's going to be good. Paul Cavazola, thankful for bang shifting 727 transmissions. You reminded me. I still got to put a valve body in this thing. This car still has the original valve body in it. People are always like, "You should learn how to build a transmission. It shifts like shit." No, it's got the stock valve body in it. Yeah, give me. It's got lazy. You know what I'm saying? I got it. Um, UP, yes. Happy Thanksgiving to you too. Uh, yeah, Zero. It's going to be great. Tavo, what's happening, Tavo? And you're thankful for your family? Absolutely, bro. I'm thankful for my family too. Um, Crazy Coffee, I'm thankful I got out of Harborview Medical Center alive from my EEG. It was torture to say the least. Well, I hope everything is going good for you now, brother, man. Yeah, Kiwi went back to the old country. Uh, let's see. Braden Bernard, 1991 S10 TBI. New temperature sensor. Gauge shows cold. Any tips? Will it run weak because of no temp? Whether you got two temperature sending units. There's one that the computer uses, and then there's the one that the gauge uses. So on that setup, no, one will not affect the other. Why is it? I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, the gauge itself might not be. It could be the printed circuit on the back of the gauge cluster could do it. Um, but no, it won't. On that particular thing, the computer uses one temperature sensor, coolant temp sensor, and the gauge uses a second coolant temp sensor. The one for the computer is in the intake manifold by the thermostat housing, and the one for the gauge is on the driver's side cylinder head. Uh, Casper Cassini. For Cassie, Tony, do you like turkey neck? No, white meat. I'm strictly white meat. Uh, let's see. Zach Kohler, unmeat roast beef product trumps finding. Bro, I have no idea what you're talking about. Tony, B or RB? I'm partial to B's. I've always been partial to B's. Uh, Paul Pahody wants to know who eats turkey liver and heart. Dogs. Dogs love that stuff. Mexican spec. Me too, Tony. Only white meat and a lot of it. Yeah, it's I don't know. I can't eat dark meat chicken. I can't eat dark meat turkey. Nothing. And even I tell you what. You know what? Dark meat uh, uh, um, pork. Because if you notice, like some pork, you get a pork chop. Some pork chops are all like white meat and they're good, and then some pork chops have like a darker thing in there, and they taste like ass. So it's like, yeah, I'm really really picky with my pork too. The pork has to be just right. Um, Maximum Eleutheria. I have a 97 S10 with a 2.2. Idling rough. Dumb the plugs, wires, coils, oil, coolant. Good. Any suggestions? Well, I mean, there's so much to that. Um, are the injectors firing correctly? I mean, does it? You've done the plugs, wires, coils. Okay, so you took care of all of those bases. So your other possibilities there are a vacuum leak, bad or clogged injector. Um, Most likely one of those two things. Most likely one of those two things. Um, Remy Kushner, have you had success with no choke on a daily driver? I've got no choke on my thermoquad and it wants to die right off idle when cold. Well, yeah. I mean, on most of my okay. So if it's a true daily driver that see in my mind, a true daily driver is you can throw the keys to anybody. You know what I mean? They don't have to be and just tell them, yeah, pump the gas and then turn the key, right? So that's if that's a true daily driver, that's it. Okay, pump the gas, turn the key. That's all you have to tell anybody for them to get in and drive it. Could be your grandmother. Doesn't make any difference, right? So in my mind, a true daily driver should have a choke, and the choke should be working correctly. Now, a daily driver that I'm going to use, and if especially if it's like performance oriented, no, I wouldn't even bother with a choke because I know that I got to sit there for a couple of seconds and feather the throttle until you know what you're waiting for. Honestly, what you're waiting for is the intake valves to get warm, right? It's an engine won't idle until the intake valves start to get some heat in them because when the intake valve starts to get heat, that's when the gasoline hits it. The gasoline vapor or the mixture hits it and lightens it up, and that those vapors are what make it easy to fire. So the vapors are the fuse for the droplets. So that's what you're waiting for. When you start an engine and it's running like hell when it's cold, you're waiting for the intake valves to warm up a little bit, and then they'll run okay. Um, let's see. PT Dave, I don't have a choke on my 65 fastback. Just hold the gas for about 2 minutes. Yeah, 2 minutes is a long time. Um, let's see. J. Matthew Tully, if I broke the tab that holds the metering block or aligns it to the holly, is it screwed? Once it's tightened down, it's not going to move around at all. But you got to make sure that it's like you've got it centered exactly when you go to tighten it. There's honestly, there's probably enough slop built into it that you should be okay. You should be okay. Just take extra time making sure you've got the metering block aligned to the body before you tighten the screws. Regis Philbin Scrotum, thank you for the super chat. Hank, happy Thanksgiving. Rebuilt the sure grip differential for my Diplomat today. Will the ring gear bolts being over torqued by 20 pounds or so give me any pattern or backlash adjustment problems? No. No. You'll be all right. You'll be all right. Thank you for the super chat. Um, let's see. Michael Kinder, roller tip rocker is on early small block Chevy. I don't understand. Did they have roller tip rockers? No, they had just a regular plain stamped steel rocker. Um, Crazy Coffee. I think people should have a self-sufficient garden if possible, as well as meat. We grow our own vegetables and fruit. We have most of our meat in our family. Well, hey, being self-sufficient is never a bad idea. I mean, it's never a bad idea. Having a nice garden in the back, having a freezer full of meat. Yeah, I mean, it's never a bad idea. So, Kathy makes a very nice garden every year. She it's a mess now. The dogs are digging holes and everything, but she makes a very nice garden every year with the tomatoes and the zucchini. I only really eat the tomatoes, but she makes a lot of stuff that she eats. I'm not a big vegetable guy. Um, let's see. VCMD propulsion. My mom not coming for Thanksgiving because she started family drama with grandma. And so I ripped my 351 Windsor motor out of her 64 and a half Mustang. So now there's just a hole there. You let her know who's boss, man. Absolutely. Uh, let's see. Vilafly. I've got chickens and ducks, so it works for me. The guy I bought that white XJ from had ducks all the way in his backyard. And I said, "How were the ducks?" He's like, "Yeah." He says the novelty wears off pretty quick. So I don't know. Chicken, a big kick out of chickens. We had chickens for a while now. Uncle Crystal's got chickens. Everybody loves the chickens. Ducks are kind of hit and miss. Paul Cavazzolo, have you ever added a lockup to converter to a 727? Funny you bring that up because my friend Shane Polito, who is currently right now at this very exact time doing a live on his channel called Slant Daily. He also does the Wednesday night show. So if you're hanging out here and you get tired of this, head over there. Tell him we said hi. He actually made me a lockup converter for the propane combination because I wanted something. I want the car's got to be drivable. So I want a 323 gear in it, but I know it's going to need some oomph. And I want the car highway happy. So he made me a lockup. It's like I think the stall's around 3,500, 4,000 RPM, a high stall lockup converter. It's still sitting in a box over there. I'm gonna do a whole video on it within a short period of time. I just got to get back on it. Brett McIntyre, keep speaking the truth in the EV illusion. Oh God, there's so much to that. There is so much to that. Firefly, ducks are a bit annoying. They dig up the yard when it rains, noisy as hell. The chickens are smarter. Yeah, that was the impression I got because I was like, oh, ducks, that's cool. I wouldn't mind having a couple of ducks. And he says, you don't want ducks. If I had a duck, it would drown. Why would you drown it? Crazy Coffee. We have pheasants and chickens. Someone broke into a property, shot and plucked two of our roosters today. 20 acres of pheasants. That sucks. Why? Bob Manzolillo, 96 XJ, number 5 misfire, multiple misfires, new plugs, wires, cap, rotor, pickup coil, map sensor, no vacuum leaks, 140 psi compression. I'm at my wit's end. 109 bad injector, bro. You just literally listed every single thing in the loop, and you got 140 psi compression, so you know that the cylinder's sealing really good. So literally the only thing left out of the loop is the injector, or perhaps the driver for the injector in the computer, or any of the wiring in between. But I would say most likely, I mean, pick up an injector and pop the injector in, or better than that, right? Uh, you can. I have a Noid light set. You can probably do it with a test light, but you want to make sure you got a pulse to the injector. So you just pop the wire off the injector. You'll see the two holes there, right? If you can use a small bulb, it would be great. If you can't, you should be able to get a bit of a reaction out of a test light. It's only about 4 volts or 5 volts. So on a test light, it would be very, very dim. But you should see that injector pulse, or the pulse going to the injector. So if you do see a pulse, right, then the injector is bad. If you don't see a pulse, then the computer is bad. Okay? I think, right? I think that covered it. I even forgot what the question was. See, I swear to God, I don't remember what the question was. I just know that I started talking about injectors and pulse. Oh, XJ, that's right. Okay. Um, Renting with Grandpa, looking for a cast 4-barrel intake manifold for a 318. They're all over the place, bro. Um, Brett McIntyre, you are one of the few on the internet that is honest to the bone, except when gaming Casper. But that's part of the game, right? but but I did make it clear. I made it clear to everybody who was watching, and I made it clear to Andy. I say this up front, okay? If it's any competition, any form of competition, I don't care if it's thumb wrestling or drag racing. It doesn't make a difference. I will cheat. I will only focus on ways that I can cheat. Whether it's being a physical advantage, a psychological advantage, doesn't make any difference. The only thing I'm concerned with in any form of competition is cheating. So now I tell people up front, and I said it a bunch of times on lives. I said it, I think, on a video or two. I told Andy, I looked him square in the eye and says, I am going to cheat any way I possibly can. And so, you know what I mean? That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. So I'm dishonest, but I'm honest about being dishonest. How's that sound? Um, let's see. Remy Kushner, wrenching with Grandpa. Oh, we're talking about the cast 318. Yeah. Okay. The only cast 4-barrel 318 LA manifold you're going to come by is from the police package 19. Oh, wait. Okay. There is a single plane marine intake manifold that it's a single plane, low profile 4-barrel intake manifold, marine only. It was only available marine. You might go hang around. You might contact some boat guys. I bet you could find one or two of those things laying around. So that was a cast iron 318 specific intake manifold. Um, but other than that, the only 318, the only car 318s that came with 4-barrel intake manifolds would be the 85, 86s, and those were 360 intake manifolds. There was nothing special about it. It was just a regular 360 intake manifold. And port mismatch, the hell with it. Don't worry about it. Slam it on there, and that's what the factory did. Um, oh, Bob Menzel, Tony, thanks. I forgot to mention the injectors are new. Well, then go back and check the pulse because it's not unusual for an injector driver to go bad inside the computer. So. Um, Zach, hey from Oz. I've been in jail most of this year and missed the Mission Impossibles. You've been in jail? What were you in jail for, man? We've all gone there at one time or another. Um, Missed the Mission Impossible series, but searching because nope, you will not find anything on the Mission Impossible series. As I explained it like twice every live. Had the idea, everything was worked out. It was supposed to be done a certain way with David doing the brain work on it, Andy helping him out physically, and me being a go-between, and we were going to work together. And then all of a sudden, boom, there's this other guy gets pulled into the picture from Florida who I don't know him, never heard of him. And all of a sudden, David's got this guy doing all of this work, and David's telling me, "Oh, you have to send parts to Florida." I'm like, "I'm feds. I don't know what, where." And so at that point, I was like, "Okay, weirdness has taken over, and I check out." So that is the short answer for that's a medium length answer for the Mission Impossible 318 question. Now, since that happened, I do have a 318 sitting on the floor right there, waiting to do exactly that thing with it, but I'm nowhere near that right now. I have other fish to fry. I've got to get done. So that particular one it's gone to places I don't understand. So let's see. Stevie B, Tony, happy Thanksgiving to you too, brother. Uncle Kathy, just asking who does your machine work. I have most of it done by Shacklets up in Nashville. My friend Chuck Yoder does some stuff for me too. Um, but between those two, they've got me covered. Let's see. Okay, Jim, it's true. Charles video done with work, sending back to Vizard. Well, again, see, they're doing their thing. They're doing their thing. It's not what I had originally intended. It's not what I signed on for. You see what I'm saying? It became a whole different thing. And like I said, at that point, you know, you could fight about it. You know, what do you mean it's doing this? It's doing that, or you could just check out. I find I find many times it's easier to just check out. It just depends on the personalities of the people that you're dealing with, and friendships. Andy is, I consider Andy to be a good friend of mine, even though I screwed him with the. So I consider Andy to be a good friend of mine, and rather than making a piss and stink and everything else, I'm like, just okay, yeah, you guys go ahead, knock yourselves out, go for it. Um, Let's see. TJ, you love the videos. Thank you, sir. Just found your channel. I'm a mechanic from New Jersey. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you too, brother. And everybody in the People's Republic of New Jersey. Um, Mean Machine Mania. Have you ever done any engine machine work? It's such a satisfying craft. I love it. I have not. I have not. Um, I've always been fortunate to have friends and acquaintances that were excellent machinists, and it's a I mean, I understand how it all works, but no, I am absolutely not a machinist, and I have no desire to be a machinist. Everybody has a different calling. You know what I'm saying? Some people they're called to do body and paint work, and some people are called to be just general mechanics. That's me, right? And some people are called to be very exacting, specific, and they become machinists. It's like, so you got the body men who are the artists, and you have the machinists, which are the scientists. You know what I mean? So and I'm in the middle, but I have no desire to learn the craft. There's Uncle Kathy just jumped in there saying happy birthday, or to anybody who's having a birthday, and happy Thanksgiving to all. Um, let's see. JC Vaccaro, a welder, I'm not. I'm hit and miss. Okay, like when oxyacetylene torch, gas welding, and not brazing. I don't braze, right? But gas welding, I consider myself to be extremely good. As far as like electric welding, man, I get it done. I mean, we've built cars, welds hold together, but they're not the prettiest things in the world, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm not doing it for sale. I'm not doing it for anybody. You know what I'm saying? I don't weld things for other people. Pay me to weld this. I don't do that. Right? So I'm like, fine. I don't care if it's got some splatter, a little wander off here and there. I don't care. What's on the to be? What about the 273 four-barrel intake? The 64, 65, 64, 65, 66 won't work. Because the intake manifold bolts are at a different angle than the 318. 67, yeah. So there would be a 1 year only 67 273 four-barrel intake manifold that would be a direct bolt onto a 318. That could also be the basis of that 318 four-barrel marine intake manifold that I was talking about earlier. But I never had the two side by side to tell you what they are. But you know what? You could look up casting numbers. Just look up casting numbers and see if that 67 318, the 67 273 four-barrel intake manifold is the same casting number as that marine one. Um, Viofly, what kind of carb on the 64 Dart? My 64 Dart, the one that's sitting over there, it's got a BBD. Um, Roger Wilson, did you ever run across Smoking Eunuch? No, I did. Never had that. I never had that good fortune. No. Um, Stevie B, I think you should respray the duster, but that's me. I should respray the duster. I should respray everything I've ever painted. I absolutely have to respray the orange car, the Dart, because I've got blistering on the C pillar, so I'm probably going to end up shooting that whole thing over again. How about Monza? I love Monzas. They were the slickest cars. You see, you had to be around in the '70s to really appreciate Monzas, because when Monzas came out, Grumpy's toy, bro. The first hot rod Monza. So Chevy introduces the Monza in '75, right? And I was a kid. I was still building a lot of car models and stuff like that. And I remember getting a model of that thing. I was like, oh my god, that's so swoopy. But then at Englishtown, I guess it was the Summer Nationals of that year, whatever event it was. I saw Jenkins and Paul Blevins had a Monza too. I remember the two white Monzas kind of next to each other. That was the literally the slickest thing that had ever existed on Earth to that point. You look at those cars today, and they're like, oh, kind of frumpy, weird looking. You know what I mean? But man, in the day back then, oh God, they were slick. Um, Monzas were weird. No, they weren't. Well, they were and they weren't. They were definitely different. Uh, let's see. Mexican spec, the tune-up mechanics at the Chevy dealer. Oh God, yeah. So so Ford put the 302 in the Mustang too, and so Chevy had to counter that, and they put a 267 and then a 305 in the Monza, and to get at the number driver's side, 1, 2, 3. I think it was a number four. One, two, three. Well, I'm sorry, 1, 3, 5. The number five spark plug. You had to jack the motor up out of the car. You had to undo the mounts and everything. You had to bring the transmission right to the top of the tunnel. It was a pain in the ass. And even then, you really couldn't get at it. That, or you had to pull the steering column out of the car, which you couldn't do with the engine in the car. Um, let's see. Yeah, the fastback Monzas were slick. Michael Kinder, does upgrading the early small block Chevy with roller tip rockers for accurate 1.5 ratio worth it? I mean, it depends what you're doing with it. I mean, first off, I would if you're gonna spring for rockers, go for a 1.6 rocker. Just just go for a 1.6 rocker. You're not gonna notice any sort of seat in the pants. I mean, if that's what you're looking for, upgrading to a roller rocker is part of an overall plan to reduce parasitic to make the engine function better. But it's in and of itself, you're not going to see a difference just going roller to from a non-roller rocker to a roller rocker. You're not going to really see a difference, but it is part of an overall plan. Um, Patrick Ninja. It's the weight of the rocker tip over the valve that makes the difference. Uh, yeah, the roller rocker mod is for durability, as long as they're good roller rockers, because bad roller rockers cut your durability in half. And there's nothing on Earth more durable than the stock stamped rocker. They don't wear out. Um, as long as it's a quality roller rocker, then yeah, but it's not going to give any more durability. Um, Zero is thank you. Fubar just put up a merch for a link to our merch. So you want hats, t-shirts, we have a lot of different t-shirts, stickers, all that stuff, paraphernalia. Uh, Fubar just put the link to that. Seth and Zero wants to see Seth Doss. I'm going to go back. Zero, I'm going to find Seth's question again because I missed it. Um, there it is. Rebuild car. Oh, okay. Seth Doss asking about my '64 Dart. Doesn't want to start after sitting overnight unless you add gas to the carb. Yeah. Okay. Uh-oh. Overnight seems a bit extreme. So after about 2 days of sitting, okay, for about 48 hours or thereabouts, the gasoline will completely evaporate out of the carburetor. completely. Like you'll have to crank it to restart it. That's normal. Now, if it's only doing it, if you're only getting about 24 hours out of it, it means that your float is set a little too low. You're not getting adequate volume into the float bowl. So you've got the bowl set a little too low if you're out of gas after just one day of sitting. But typically, if these things sit for more than 48 hours, you got to crank it or prime it to get fuel back up in there. Because today's gasoline, people complain. They're always bitching about the modern. Oh, the modern gas will kill everything in a loop. No, modern gas just evaporates. It's gone, and it doesn't leave anything behind. The problem you have is when you've got like a like a lawnmower type of carburetor where it doesn't allow the fuel to evaporate out of the bowl. It's always replenishing it. It'll turn stale there, and you'll end up with water in there, and that's the problem with that type of carburetor. But for an automotive carburetor that's vented to the atmosphere, you will never have modern gas going bad and wrecking a modern carburetor. It doesn't happen because that gas evaporates. It's just gone. So, and that's just the way they formulate it today. For the ethanol that they put in there, it transfers to water, but it also evaporates. But in the old days, they used to put additives in gasoline, and I don't remember what it was exactly. They used to put additives in gasoline to keep it from evaporating, and that was the stuff that would turn to that varnish, that gunk. They don't put that in gasoline anymore. Um, the holes. Good job with the channel, Uncle Tony. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you. I try. I try. Um, John Yaman, can you give your opinion about early 340s versus 72 and 73? Well, I mean, so 73 is the only year for a cast crank, and people like they look down at them because they got cast cranks. And that crank that's a strong ass crank. Actually, mid 72, 73 I had that. And then the only other difference, okay, so the drop in compression, the camshaft stayed the same. The only cam that's different in that whole lineup is the 68 344 speed. But other than that, the cam is the same from the 68 340 automatic all the way through the end. Um, you had a drop in compression, which is through pistons, and then you had so they downsized they downsized the valves. They all have 1.6 exhaust valves. The the 68, 69, 70 have the 202. Those are the X heads, and then they went to the J heads, which the early J heads had 202 intakes also, but uh, that was only for the very beginning of the run. By mid 71 they were all 1.88, which is the same as a 360. So that's the basic rundown on early 340s versus late 340s. There's no difference in strength of the block. The X heads are they're marginally better than a J head, and you also had, you had the O head, the M head, the N head, the H head, the I head. There were all of these different series, but they're all the same as a J head. What was the question? I don't remember. There's something wrong with me. I don't remember what the question was. The difference between early and the late 340s. Okay. Did I answer your question? I don't know. Um, Mike, and two-stroke carbs automatically replenish gas in the bowl. I didn't know that. I thought you always have to hit the primer bulb 5 times for every start. Well, hitting the primer bulb is spraying because you don't, in lieu of an accelerator pump, right? In lieu of an accelerator pump and a choke, you hit the bulb and it squirts some raw gas in there because it makes it easy to start, and it'll run for the first little bit off that primer bulb. But because on those things it's gravity fed, it's the difference between a pump fed carburetor, which sits on top of everything and is open to the atmosphere, and a gravity fed carburetor, which is underneath everything. So motorcycle carburetors, lawnmower carburetors, all of that stuff. Yeah, the gas is always being replenished unless you turn the gas off. And if you're going to let those things sit for any amount of time, you turn the gas off and drain the bowl. There's always a screw at the bottom. You can either take the bowl off completely or drain the bowl out or motorcycle carburetors have a little screw. You know, there'll be a screw with a hose run at the bottom of it. You can unscrew that and drain the bowls. So if you're going to let it sit for any amount of time, more than like a couple of months, always drain the bowl. Wayne Buzzle, happy Turkey Day to you too, my brother. Thank you. Let's see. Van Little, my Holly Economaster 1 barrel will varnish up if I forget to start it every week or so. Varnish up? What kind of gas are you using in there? Joe K, can a Gen 3 Hemi be converted to run on a carburetor? Yes, done all the time. And there are intake manifolds available for that. Ricardo San Nicolas. This is a good question. What are some things you look for or basic upgrades for mid-60s cars you normally focus on when you get them? Everybody has different ideas. Okay, so for me, what I look for, aside from obvious rust, right? You're always looking for rust. And I don't care about floor rust, stuff like that. Doesn't bother me. But you're looking at rusted contact points for suspension members, stuff like that. And now, as far as like changes or upgrades, I don't second guess the engineers. Okay, if it's something I'm going to drive, I do not second guess the people who engineered the car. Now, this only applies to cars of what I consider to be what I call the interstate era. So the interstate era would be cars built after approximately 1961, 62, 63, like that. I don't second guess those engineers. Earlier cars that functioned in a pre-interstate and were designed for the pre-interstate use, that's a whole different story. But if you're talking about cars from the 60s, they were designed to operate and function in conditions pretty much what we have today. Today's highway speeds, today's traffic, today's everything. And so I do not second guess the engineers. Some people do like to second guess the engineers. And they're like, well, I'm going to change to disc brakes. I'm going to put discs in the front. I'm going to put discs in the back. I'm going to do this. The problem with that is that unless you take the entire integrated package into consideration, you may not necessarily be making an improvement. Like, for instance, you can create a situation where the front brakes take so much pressure to stop if you only do, so let's just say, for example, you do a front disc conversion. You're increasing the amount of pedal effort necessary for the front discs to work. At that same time that you're increasing the pedal effort for the front discs to work, you're increasing the pressure going to the rear. Now, the rear is only supposed to have so much pressure before it locks the tires. So there's a good possibility that if you do nothing else except just swap from front drums to front discs, but don't touch anything else in the loop, there's a possibility you have a car that's going to have a tendency to lock up the back wheels on loose or wet pavement. I've seen this thousands and thousands of times. So anytime you get involved in changing suspension, anytime you get involved in changing braking, anything like that, and second guessing the engineers and how they had this package envisioned, to me it's like a false economy. You know what I'm saying? I just make sure that everything is up to snuff the way the engineers put that package together. And it's not the same for hot rod. You asked about a daily driver. You know what I mean? A car that you're just going to operate. You know, you're not going to race it. You're not going to do anything crazy with it. You're going to just run it around. So, did that answer the question? I hope. I don't know. Let's see. Brett McIntyre, nice score on a white XJ. Yeah, I know. I messed with it all day today. Not all day, but I messed with it for a while today. It's good to keep an eye out for the things like that. Deal. Very good example of how to get bang for your buck. Yeah, I mean, it's not perfect, man. It needs some love, but a little at a time, and it'll get done. Bob DiMartino, happy Thanksgiving to you too, my brother. Let's see. Terry Fuller, I got 271 wheel horsepower and 355 foot-pounds of torque out of a stock long block Magnum 1.9 rockers. Did I have 1.95? Okay. It'll block RPM intake, headers, and a 750 double pumper, 3,200 pound stock high store. That's a nice package. That's a really that's something you can just drive every day and enjoy it. That's um, let's see. Well, the thing about brakes is it's a whole package. It's a whole package. People don't realize the people don't understand the engineering that goes into, like, okay, so engineer designs the car, and it's the car weighs this much, right? It has a weight range from this to this, so empty, and let's say 5 passengers in it, right? And it sits this high off the ground. It sits this high off the ground unloaded, this high off the ground loaded. The suspension has this much give to it, front and back. Now, when they design the braking system into the car, they take all of that into consideration. And so the diameter of the bore in the master cylinder, the diameter of the bore at the wheel cylinders, uh, all of those things are taken into consideration so that the car is going to make predictable stops, assuming that everything in the system is functioning correctly. The car is going to make predictable stops in every situation. Now, when you start messing around with that, you go from, let's say you got 10-inch drums in the rear and you're going to go to 11-inch drums in the rear, but not change anything else. You're upsetting this balance, and it's like, at what point does that upset balance become a liability? It may work better, let's say, in dry pavement, uh, stopping from 60 miles an hour, let's just say. But at 75 with a loaded down car on, let's say, wet pavement, is it going to act predictably? Or is it going to grab? Did you send too much braking power to the back by increasing the amount of surface area, but not decreasing the amount of pressure that goes to it? See, those are the things that all of the engineers, the people who design these cars, are not stupid. They knew what the hell they were doing. Uh, Brett McIntyre, what is the maximum lift on a Ford 302 with flat tops without needing valve release with the standard deck height? Well, those a lot of 302s I could think of came with valve release. I couldn't tell you offhand. So I'm sure somebody can answer that for you. I'm sure somebody can answer that for you. Uh, okay, Mean Machine Mania is saying about 500. Really? Well, a lot of it's going to have to do with the cam events, the timing events. But really, just 500 lift before you run into that. That seems awfully tight. I was thinking closer to like 600, but I mean I could be wrong. Uh, Hot Rod Monza. I have manual brakes with a dash mount bias adjuster with 4 piston front calipers on 14-inch rotors and 13-inch single piston calipers on the rear with residual brake. Okay, I don't know. Is that good? I don't know. See, I don't know if that's good, and so that's why I don't mess with the stuff. If you've gone that far and you know what I'm saying? If you've gone that far and you understand the balance and the dynamics of your braking system, well, excellent. But I don't know. You know what I mean? And I don't care enough to know. So I don't second guess the engineers. I'm the second guess the engineers. Um, let's see. Unknown Grower 310. Will Dodge Demon still be around in 20 years? Probably not. Wait, you mean early Dodge Demons, 70, 71, 72 Dodge Demons, or contemporary demons, because if you're talking about the contemporary ones, I seriously doubt it. I seriously doubt you're going to have all of the parts needed to keep those things together and running available in 20 years. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Howard Monza, well, you just go in a straight line. Well, we weren't talking about drag cars now. We're talking about traffic cars. We're talking about, so drag car is a different animal. A drag car is a different animal. We're talking about drivers, because the original question is, what do you do with a daily driver? You're going to pick up a 60s car and drive it, right? What do you look for? Or what modifications do you make? That was the original question. We're not talking about race cars. We're not talking about re-engineering the entire car. We're talking about taking a factory package and putting it out there. Mr. B's interesting things. Wafers are you moving to? Why? Tell us about it. Wafers. Oh, are you saying where? Where am I moving to? Oh, I'm moving the shop. So I've told this before, and I'm going to actually do a video on it, but I'll give you guys a quick rundown on this now. So this shop is, oh God, it's big. So I originally moved into this shop 3 years ago, and the idea was to set up several channels and a podcast to run out of the shop. So I needed space. I needed studio space. I needed office space. I needed workspace. So I tried many different things. I needed, here's the thing. You can have an idea, but unless you have the tool to implement the idea just sits. So I got the tool to do the idea, which was this shop. And I tried each of these things, and none of them worked out. So over the last year, I've been in the shop, but only using this very small section that I'm in right now. Everything there is basically for parking. So and if you see this wall over here, there's a whole nother, this area that's behind me that you can't see. There's a whole other section of this building that is completely empty. It's not used. So I don't need this space. And I tried my different ideas. We had different people working in here. We tried different things. We tried spin-off channels and stuff, and none of it worked out. And we tried a podcast, that didn't work out. So the only thing that seems to work is this channel. So what I'm doing is now I'm downsizing to the space that I use, which is like really this. I can't. If I turn the camera, it'll go out. And I'm eliminating that and eliminating that. I'm moving it to an area that's a little closer to civilization than I'm in right now, and the building that I'm moving into is setting up now. They're building an office for me and doing all kinds of stuff to upgrade the building that I'm moving into. It's other car guys. I'll be surrounded by other car guys. So those are the, and I'm saving 40 grand a year, which is 40 grand is a lot of money, no matter how you look at it, right? So I'll be saving $40,000 a year, not carrying this place with all of its empty space. So the move should be happening in January. When any luck, it should happen in January. I have a great relationship with the landlord here, so if I got to stay another month or I got to leave a month early, he's cool with that. So that's it. That's the rundown on the move, and that's part of it. Now, after we're in the new place, I also have another thing that I'm looking to do, but we're not going to talk about that at all until we're in the new shop and everything is up and running. Okay, let's see. What do you guys hear? New year, new shop. Yes. I literally, I have like, there's this huge amount of space over here that only gets used for parking. That's all I do all of the work on. I mean, okay, I may like change an alternator over there, right? But I don't do anything significant over there. It's just parking. Everything that I do is right here in this small section. And the shop that I'm moving into right now is literally this exact size, from that wall to the door and the width. It's perfect. It's perfect. I'll be able to keep Bottle Rocket, Slag Hammer, and the Mule Cart inside. They'll each have their permanent spots, and I'll have a big work area where I can just move stuff in and out. And It'll be good. Plus, I'll be off the main road. I don't know if you guys can hear now, but there's always traffic going past here. So a lot of times I've got to work with the doors closed. I got to shoot a video because there's, depending on the time of the day, there's constant traffic, there's constant trucks. It's bad. So um, let's see, where are we? Ralph Solitano, wheelie, yeah, bro, wheelie, everything. Wait till I get this thing's gonna wheelie. I know. If you're like, it'll never wheelie. It'll wheelie. It's gonna wheelie. Watch. I'm working on it. I'm gonna work on it. Speed and Demon. How close to Kiwi are you going to be? I'll actually be about. I'll be about 10 miles further away from Kiwi than I am right now, but that doesn't make any difference. Let's see. Hot Rod Monza, I don't miss the days of rolling around in the dirt and the sand. Yeah, I don't miss that either. Uh-uh. Hey, zero. Okay, that's my brother Ralph. And okay, he's busting my chops. You know how to delete his messages. He's busting my chops because he just bought an RZR. So he's all stoked on that thing, and he wants me to go buy a side by side myself, and wants to go off road. And so that's why he's busting chops. So just letting you know, man. Just letting you know. Anthony Pernu, Tony, would you consider a roots blower for slag hammer? Probably not. I don't want anything that I don't want anything that's going to take any more. Probably not. Probably not. Um, let's see. Mopar missile, Tony. What trunk lid seal does my 72 Roadrunner use? The D or the Y? I don't know. I don't know, bro. Good question. I don't know. Maybe somebody on here does. Somewhat fast. Is your new shop going to be smaller than the old? Yes, significant. Is your new shop going to be smaller than the old one, the one they came out? No, it's bigger than what we came out of, but it's smaller than this. Will Mrs. Landy be cast out? Yes, Mrs. Landy is going to have to go sit in the weather. Ricardo San Nicolas, what was one of your most memorable cars? Do you still have it? Memorable. So two. I have two that are the most memorable. The first was my 72 Roadrunner. I had a 72 Roadrunner 400 4-speed car. That I just loved that car. It was the perfect car. Bear stripper, 400 4-speed, 355 gear, and nothing else. It was just a bear strip car. I missed that thing. It was gold with a like a tan interior. I missed that car. It was fantastic. And my fuel altered, the first fuel altered that I built. Those would be the two most memorable cars. Gail urged, Tony's moving on up. No, I'm moving sideways. I'm moving sideways. Remy Kushner, what is your opinion on drilling throttle plates for bypass air in a thermal quad? Do it, but start small. You know what I'm saying? Start small. You can always make. Although I've done that too. I've over drilled, and then you got to weld the hole closed and then drill another one. It's a pain in the ass. Well, but yeah, just start small. You know what I mean? If you think you're gonna, you think you're gonna need like a 60,000 hole, start at 20 and see what happens. Ari's saying he's a huge fan of the lateral move. Dude, seriously, sometimes you just move sideways. Well, it's a regrouping thing because I have different ideas. Like I have different ambitions now than I had, let's say, 3 years ago. So when your ambitions change, you have to roll with it. You know what I'm saying? Your ideas change, your situations change, perspective changes. So you need to change with it. So I'm looking to get rid of extraneous stuff, right? Stuff that's just piling up. I'm never going to get to it. Don't want to deal with it, right? Clutter. I'm trying to like clean. I'm trying to organize and everything. Move to a place that's more suitable for what I do with this channel, and then I have a step after that I have to finish this step first. And after I've got this step all finished, then we'll talk about what the next thing is going to be, but not yet. Um, let's see. Loud pipe saves lives. Have you been down the centennial bulb rabbit hole? Why'd you do this to me? Why'd you do this to me? Like I need another rabbit hole to go down. For the last couple of months, I've been down, and I'm convinced for sure. All right, so just real quick, because I don't want to. This is supposed to be tech talk. I don't want to get sidetracked into like rabbit hole land. But just real quick, just type a couple of sentences that tells me what that is, and then I'll look at it tonight when I go home. Junkyardigans, Tony. My 440 Dart is giving me weird probs. With only number two plug being black is black rich, but everything else is fine. New plug wires and plug fouls immediately. Any tips? New plug wires and fouls immediately. Any tips? Is the cylinder healthy, bro? Is the cylinder healthy? Does it have compression? Um, Carburation. So if it's only the number two plug, number two on a 440. That's not really central to any. Um, so I'm going to say it's probably not a carburetor issue. Intake manifold. Intake manifold. Um, so this is one of those things, right? When you start dealing with these engines, and especially if you're dealing with something that wasn't together in one piece, but you piece them together. So you buy an intake manifold here, you get a cylinder heads there. There's often like little machining things that are done over the course of the last half a century, right? So you'll find odd machining and fitment issues when you start putting these things together. So I'm going to say it's more likely that you're oil fouling the plug than gas fouling the plug. A fine oil mist, not when the cylinder's pumping oil, but a fine oil mist, like something that would be pulled, let's say, through a tiny gap in the intake manifold. A fine oil mist will give you the same basic look and characteristics of a gas fouled plug. So I would check that. I would check that. Um, let's see. JB Weld the World. There's you can't knock JB. Um, Trash the lean, Jay Ficaro, trash the lean burner, keep it. 83 Cordoba 318, trash it. Get rid of it. Um, Michael Roberts, Tony, any knowledge on Mike Cool superchargers blowers? I just picked up a clean 671. He was doing back when blowers were my thing. When I was in that world, he was doing the alcohol cars. That was the cool blowers were the ones that the alcohol cars were using. Um, God, we were still using Mooninghams. I I tell you what, I'm not familiar with that specific blower, but I am familiar with the company, and yes, they put out a very quality product, so I wouldn't have any concerns. Um, let's see. Ron Kalin, have you ever come down to Daytona for Turkey Rod Run? I have not. I have not. And Fubar just put the link to our merch again. Thank you, Fubar. Um, let's see. Crashes Roadrunner Garage. I have an 86 D100 with the 225. What is a better carb? Holly 1920 45 or the Carter BBD? Need a good one. Okay, so the Holly that that would have been 1945 on that, right? I don't like those carburetors. I really don't like those carburetors. And the 1920 has as a issue that happens in the metering block on those. For pure simplicity's sake, it's not as good a carburetor. Okay, so it's not as sophisticated a carburetor. But for pure simplicity's sake and lack of aggravation as you go through life, put a BBD, put a BBS on it. Um, yeah, Holly sucks big. So okay, so on those carburetors, so to be specific about it, all right. I think I have one here. Hang on, I'll be right back. Yeah, I don't have one apart. I thought I had one apart. Um, this has a metering block inside of it. That's similar to the metering block you'd find like on a Holly 4 barrel. It's different, but it's similar, different, but same basic idea. And in that metering block, there's a passage that runs from bottom to top. Okay, if you take that metering block out, you'll see that there's like a lead plug in the top of the metering block, and underneath that lead plug is a passage, a tiny, tiny passage that gets clogged. And the only way to fix it is to pop that metering block out. Now they clog. It's so small, it'll clog for like any freaking reason. Okay, and the only way to fix that is to pull the metering block out, pull the lead plug out, fish. I have some stainless wire, some very thin stainless wire that gets through there, and then you have to epoxy like I've used pieces of like soda cans and stuff like that. You have to after because you pull the well plug out or the lead plug out, you have to seal it again. So I've used pieces of tin can and epoxy to close it back up again. But that's the Achilles heel of those carburetors. They're a pain in the ass. So I would just go with a BBS. Um, Zero. I believe in electric turbo. The future is none heat soak. Imagine two speed and beyond. It's the future that makes sense to me. I agree with you. I do not know why it's taking so long to get a viable electric supercharger or a turbocharger on the market. I don't understand why it's so difficult to do. I wonder why they don't work with like capacitors for stuff like that. So it's like I would okay. So I would imagine it could be similar to like a nitrous setup, or the Turbonique. Okay, so Turbonique had a rocket powered supercharger, right? That they were marketing back in the 60s. It was literally a rocket powered supercharger. So it came with a cartridge filled with this thermoline, and you would set the cartridge off, and the cartridge would spin up the turbocharger or a supercharger, and you would, you so for you get for as long as the rocket was firing, you had power. So I don't understand why they can't do something similar to that with, let's say, a couple of big capacitors and an electric supercharger or turbocharger, whichever you would. Why can't they just do something like that where you could charge up the capacitors, and then when you hit the button, bam, it lets this thing rip. You get a few seconds of crazy boost out of it, and then it rests while it recharges the capacitors. I don't understand why they can't do something like that. Um, let's see, Fahar Iram. Hello, Uncle Tony. I always laugh when you mentioned there's somebody under the rock in Indonesia who didn't know you. Funny thing is, I'm from Indonesia and I find it hilarious. Big fun. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Are you currently in Indonesia, or did you come here? And but yeah, that's the crazy thing about YouTube, man. It's like we have people who watch us from literally all over the world. Um, Brett McIntyre. It takes a lot of power to boost, which is why blowers have cog belts. Yeah, but you can make a ton of power with an electric motor too. Um, the holes. Uncle Tony, do you make it a habit to get to SEMA? Never, never. I've never been to SEMA, and like quite literally, it's the last place I would probably ever like intentionally go. Don't like, I don't like anything about it. I don't like anything about it. I don't like literally. I am the anti-SEMA. Okay, think of it that way, right? There was nothing represented at that event I would want to have anything to do with. I did hit PRI twice, way back when. PRI is a little more palatable to me, but SEMA is just grandstanding and nonsensical things. I find it vile and offensive, to be honest with you. Boomer, yes, I am a boomer, and I'm damn proud of it. Harry's saying he always calls his truck his SEMA build. Brett McIntyre is saying it's always a bad idea to ignore physics. Physics is a good thing. I saw. I don't remember where I saw it. Right, but there was a. Oh God, it's typical SEMA stuff. Right, it's like so SEMA. It was a lifted trucks are the big thing, right? Not that they would ever even think about taking one of these things, using it for its purpose, but there was a lifted truck, okay, and it had on the rear radius arms, it had very elaborate patterns, I guess, water jetted into it. All right, it was it was like very artistic, and it's like okay, I'm cool with that. That's fine. You know what I mean? It's like it's not my cup of tea, but I appreciate the workmanship. But then they did the same thing to the drive shaft. The drive shaft has a pattern, water jetted into the drive shaft. And it's like, what, why? Why? You know, why? Uh, Patrick Vinija, as a machinist and builder, I thank you for showing the everyday car person they don't need to spend thousands on top of thousands to have fun and do smoky burnouts. No, that's the whole point, man. That's the whole point of this channel is just just find stuff, work with stuff, have fun with stuff, right? Just don't worry about it. Just in it's supposed to be about satisfaction, not about spending money. And we try, we try to represent. Um, Eric Walsh, any plans for your blue Roadrunner at the house? Well, that's the thing. I have no plans for it, which is why it just sits at the house. It's in its final state. I don't want to change anything about it. The intent was to get it out at some point this year, and it just never materialized. Lots and lots of things I had intended to do this year didn't materialize. But we'll try it again for next year. Zero saying billet, tribal, everything. Yeah, please. I know. I know. I know. Um, Zero, Tony, my 351 Cleveland started making a rhythmic tapping noise that got faster with higher RPM, but it went away after about 10 minutes. Vacuum gauge was fluctuating between 10 and 10. Yeah, you had a collapsed lifter. You were running for a little while with a collapsed lifter, and it pumped itself back up. Um, The Eisenhower jacket is a classic. What's a I? Excuse my ignorance. What's an Eisenhower jacket? Uh, Travis Moore. I wonder what happens if you put an ozone generator in line with your air intake. I looked into that not too long ago, right? And I don't remember. Okay, so I looked into that ozone generators. Um, Maybe a year ago. I don't remember what I was what mental thing I was like working with at the time, right? What idea, what train of thought I was working with. But I did look into ozone generators, and it was interesting. It was interesting, but then I got sidetracked. But I'm glad that you brought that up because that's something I need to go back and look at a little bit deeper. It was like I was working on something else, okay, and then the ozone generator popped in, and I looked at it a little bit and I says, "Oh, that's interesting. Let me finish this and I'll get back to that." And I never got back to it. So I'm glad you brought that up, and I am going to get back to that. Mike, and Eisenhower jacket, the one you have on, I think is that what this is called? Is it an Eisenhower jacket? I like Ike. Um, Daniel Strayer, how hard is it to store ozone under pressure and deliver it later? No, the ozone is created. You generate the ozone that's drawn into the intake. Yeah, Joe K. I always called mechanic jackets too. I didn't realize they had a name. Um, oh, it's the brand. Yeah, classic jacket from Dickies. That's it. All my stuff is Dickies. Um, Van Little is the EV really dying? Are hybrids going to become the next thing? Dude, it's such a clusterfuck. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that the EV really has. Me personally, I think there are bigger forces at work than just EVs, and it's going down a bunch of different rabbit holes that I don't want to go down now here at this time. But I think there's more to it than just a forced switch over to EVs. I don't think that the people who are forcing I don't think they think it's possible. I think there's a bigger agenda at work, and it has nothing to do with limiting mobility either. Um, so yeah, right. I'll do something on it. Brett McIntyre, Tony, are you form over function in building a car? I believe you are function first. Yes, I function first, but function with coolness. Function with coolness. You know what I mean? I just coined a new term. I just coined a new phrase. Right, ready for artistic function? Okay, so this is an example of artistic function. I wanted the car to have a certain aesthetic to it. From a certain era. So that's what it does, and I'm trying to make it function to the best of that aesthetic. Does that make any sense? So artistic function. If I had to classify where my head is, that would be it. Um, Mr. B's interesting thing. Question: what happened to the alternative channel on stacking, economy, trading, etc.? Okay, I have to get this move done first. I have to finish what I'm working on right now. I got to get the propane card together. I have to tie up a few loose ends, get the shop moved, and then once the shop is moved, then we talk about that. But it's not off the table by any stretch of the imagination. But I do have to regroup. I have to reprioritize and reconfigure things a little bit so that I can do that. Um, let's see, Caravaggio 2012. If I'm not planning on more than 600 horsepower and 6,500 RPM, is a force crank worth it over cast? Probably not. Probably not. The big issue I say this all the time. People ask, well, how much horsepower would this block take? How much horsepower would this crank take? It's not the power, it's the violence. So if you could keep the engine out of detonation, that's the key now. If you can keep the engine out of detonation, then yeah, a cast crank will literally laugh at 600 horsepower. But if it's an angry 600 horsepower that's like right on the verge of detonation or bad harmonics, then no, you could hurt a crankshaft at 200 horsepower. You know what I'm saying? Depending on how ragged the engine is. But generally speaking, like let's say for instance, if you're talking about like a big block Mopar, a cast 440 crank, let's just say, yeah, it'll laugh at 600 horsepower as long as you keep the motor out of detonation. Um, Roger Fireball ever drag raced a rental car, budget drag racing, a Toyota Yaris. I took a Toyota. I went. I did street racing with a Toyota Yaris. Lots of lengths and brake involved and all of that. But yes, K. Nelson, will the EV create higher insurance rates? The EV will decimate the insurance industry. It'll level the insurance industry. This is what I'm saying. It's like the people who are pushing for EVs know that the EV is a dead end. There's a bigger agenda at work, and it has to do with corporate consolidation. It has to do with it has to do with ending the let's say the current manufacturing status quo, and that would include things like insurance companies. So, yeah, okay, the Klaus and Company, right? Okay, they're evil, but they're not stupid. They're not stupid. They know it's impossible, literally physically impossible to convert everybody over to EVs. They know this. They know this. What they say and what they do, two completely different things. There's a bigger agenda at work, and the agenda has to do with deconstruction. Right? Trust me on this, because the more I look at it, the more I realize this is this is there's a bigger undercurrent to all of this, right? Bill McKeiska, thank you so much. It's a very generous super chat. Um, in regards to your propane versus gas comparison engine, how can you really be sure you're giving a fair shake or even getting an accurate read on performance when the cam, combustion chamber, etc., are meant for the way gas burner? Well, and that's absolutely true. Okay. So here's what we're going to do with this. I'm putting a small Edelbrock. I don't have one. I have to get one. I'm going to score a 500 CFM Edelbrock, which flows. It's going to flow approximately the same amount of air as the throttle body that I have, the current propane throttle body I have. I want to run the two of them back to back just to see what the actual like the propane makes more power here, more power there, less here, less there. I want to see the characteristics of the two types of fuel side by side with as close an induction as possible. And then I want to modify the engine to work with propane. So it's going to be done in phases. It's going to be done in steps. And the first step is just to get the car running, drive it around a little bit, and just get used to the whole thing with the propane. And once we've got that, we'll do the back-to-back carburetor, and then continuing forward, we'll optimize for propane. Thank you again for that super chat. It was awesome. Um, Troy back. Give me three things I can do to wake up an RV 440. Um, Exhaust, right? Headers, right? Or a good free flowing exhaust system. Um, Distributor, right? Ignition, the distributor, because that's got a really lazy. It's got a very long. That distributor, it's in that car. It's got a very long mechanical advance swing. It's like 28 degrees. Um, you want a distributor that's going to bring in. You want a distributor with, let's say, limited to 20 degrees total time, 20 degrees mechanical advance. You want to drop it in there. It's a low compression engine. It's only like a 7.9 8-to-1 compression engine, so don't worry about pre-ignition. Um, you want to set your timing. You want about 35 degrees total in by like 2,000 RPM, 2,500 RPM max. You want to limit that to about 25 to about 20 degrees. So you want about 15 degrees on the hit, and then 20 degrees in by 2,000 RPM. Just call it that. That will absolutely. I mean, you will not believe the difference that you'll get out of it that way. Um, and get some plenum under that carburetor, like a 2-inch spacer. If it's the intake manifold that I'm thinking of, a 2-inch. You can't use a 4-hole on that if it's the stock one because thermoquad. Uh, a 2-inch spacer under there, and break the radius when you look at the intake manifold. You look at that intake manifold has got a small primary, a big secondary, and a divider, and a small primary and a big secondary. So it's got sharp edges there. Break all of those sharp edges. Put a 2-inch spacer on it. Those three things, you'd be amazed how much power you'll get out of a motorhome 440, and an otherwise stock motorhome 440. Okay. Brian Lewis, thank you for the super chat. The vacuum advance on my 305 small block is hitting the intake. Can I simply lift the distributor and move it over one or two teeth so there's more play? Yeah. Um, you dropped it wrong. Honestly, I mean, you just dropped it wrong. Okay, I'm going to tell you the easy way to do that on a small block Chevy. Okay, um, I just have to roll the cigarette. Okay. So here's what you do. All right, you have to take all your spark plug wires off. Okay, take all your spark plug wires off. Determine where number one is going to be. Use the factory diagram to see which post is going to be number one. Okay, pull your distributor out. When you pull your distributor out and you go to drop, you turn at the teeth that you're going to drop it on, right? It's not going to engage directly into the oil pump. So what's going to happen is you've either got to get in there with a long screwdriver and turn the tang on the oil pump, or what I do with that is, so you want to move the distributor two teeth, let's just say, to reposition the vacuum advance. Figure out what post number one is going to be, and on the small block Chevy, it's going to be the post closest to the number, pointing at the number one cylinder, right? So pull the distributor out, turn it to 2 inches, or the two teeth that you're going to need, right? Drop it back down, but it's not going to line up with the oil pump drive shaft. So what you do is, with the distributor loose, right? Just click the key, just click, click, right? And the distributor will turn and it'll drop down into the oil pump, and then lock it down there, and then do your 1-843-657-2. Did that help? I hope that helped. Um, Jason Bryan, sorry to interrupt. You're not interrupting yeah, at all. This is what we're here for. Um, can you someday discuss the 2.2 and 2.5 Chrysler engines? They have been so reliable for me. Thank you. They were excellent engines. Now, other than just doing repair work to them, timing chains and water pumps and like a head gasket here or there, right? Aside from doing that kind of work, I never really dug into the guts of them. I've had, back in the day, I had several of them, just daily drivers. And no, they were great engines. But I don't really have the problem with them today is that there's so few of them around. They don't really have, they don't have like a big enthusiast following, and it's not even like the engines themselves, but like the parts that go around them. The ECMs and stuff. It's like you can't. They're difficult to work with because they don't have a big enthusiast following. But they were excellent, excellent engines. Um, I don't know what else to say about that. Uh, Mike Batista, Tony actually knows what he's talking about. I know. So some people say I don't. I don't know. I could just be imagining all this stuff. Um, can I keep the stock carb for a 318 lean burn swap? Yes. Um, it's a forged crank and block. You have a forged block. Um, Brett McIntyre, why not? Yes, Brett. Brett, you won the internet for the day because Brett is exactly right. So go back to that whole thing about pulling the distributor, turning the thing, bumping it. He's absolutely right. Okay, Brett, you make me feel like an idiot. But you're so right. I overthought the answer to that question. I completely overthought the answer to that question. All right, Brett has got it right. Okay, okay. So you've got the distributor. You got your wires on a distributor, right? One by one, take them off and move them over one notch. So if you've got the vacuum advances up against the intake manifold and you want to move the vacuum advance back, okay, just move move the vacuum advance back and then take each wire and move it one post over on the distributor to put the positioning of the wire in the same place, but with the distributor move. Brett is absolutely right. this is this is why I love doing this. Yes, Brett won the internet for the day. Um, Wayne, I've got a big loss of power and popping out the right exhaust. Sticking valve, it wasn't the head gaskets. Could be a burn valve. Yeah, depending on the cylinder. I mean, it could be a dropped seat. Um, okay, if you don't have any valve train noise, then more than likely a burned valve. Sticking valve. If it's a sticking valve, you're more than likely going to get a lifter noise. So if you don't have a lifter noise, then odds are the valve is burnt. Um, Jason, Tony, can we twist your arm and get you to work on a 2.2 or a 2.5 and build a fat turbo motor? Bro, let me tell you something. I have wanted a GLHS for the longest time. I really want one. Every time I see one of those cars, I'm like, oh, God, I want that, right? I don't have one. I will not buy one because I can't easily attain parts for it. I can't stockpile parts for it. It has no support. So I end up with an orphan car. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't, Because if you love them, then yeah, I mean, by all means, get as many of those things, as many parts as get into a community that's devoted to those cars. I don't. I don't have. It's like I don't have enough free headspace to get into a more obscure car. I stick with things that are very common, very easy to work with. You know, like now, my current thing is XJs. Why? Because I can go to any pull apart and get anything I need, like in abundance, right? For next to nothing. You don't have that when you're dealing with those with the K car era Chryslers, the 22s and the 25s. So it's more dealing with those, like for instance, dealing with dealing with 2225 Chrysler engines is, or did I say 2526? Dealing with those Chrysler engines is like dealing with a Studebaker, you know, or some other obscure. It was popular in the day; it was around, but there aren't any around now. So that's why I stay away from them. John Crook, if you had to buy a 2000 to 2012 car truck, what would you buy? An XJ. I own three of them. Easy enough to answer. They built them in 2000 and 2001, so it's that's close enough, I guess. All Forum might have some 2225 people. I keep them. So the Mitsubishi 26 was in there too, and I confuse them. That was a freaking killer engine. The Mitsubishi, they call it. They actually put Hemi emblems on those things. The Mitsubishi 2.6. So it was available in the same bodies that the 2.2 and the 2.5 were, but they were great engines. They were great engines. Um, Admit I have an XJ addiction. I do. Kevin McCarthy, why did I specify what type of camshaft cylinder heads are designed for? What difference will it make? Okay, I can give you one example, like a recent example. The Edelbrock, e, e, okay, Easy Street Edelbrock heads. I think that's the name they go by. But the aluminum big block heads for the Chrysler, right? They tell you specifically not to use a roller cam in there, right? They tell you these heads, you have to use a flat tappet cam. They don't care if it's solid or hydraulic, but it has to be a flat tappet cam. They don't want you to use a roller cam with them. And the reason for that is because of the seats. Evidently, the a roller is it drops the valve so aggressively that it will knock the seats loose eventually, right? So that's one example. Now I don't. There might be others, but that's one that I know of right off the top of my head. That Edelbrock specs is they're very specific about it. Do not use a roller cam with these heads. So Mike Batista, yeah, the Mitsubishi 26 had timing chain issues. Yeah, they were minor though. They were minor. Cam intensity, yes. For lack of a better word, cam intensity. Um, let's see. Justin Billington is saying they make heads specifically for roller cams too. See, I don't know that. I mean, I'm sure they do, but I can't think of any examples of that. So, I mean, basically, you got to go with what the designer, what the manufacturer recommends. I think the person, they're all different. Like You can't have a crystal ball when you're dealing with this stuff, and you can, especially when dealing with aftermarket components, you can never assume that one size or one procedure or one style will fit across the board because they all have very specific things. You know, this manufacturer specs this grade of aluminum for this run of heads, and it has this expansion characteristic, and it does this, so it can only be used in this application and that application. It's like that's one of the problems when you start getting into aftermarket stuff, and especially today where there's like a huge abundance of aftermarket stuff, and every manufacturer has its own little idea or its own methodology for doing things, that you start to when you start mixing and matching components, you find yourself in trouble. And like the example of the heads that you can't use a roller cam on, you're not supposed to use a roller cam on. Who would ever think of that, right? Unless you read the instructions that came with the heads. Um, Sid Ryder, what does roller cam have to do with the head design? The way it was explained to me is that the roller the roller cam drops the exhaust valve more aggressively than a flat topic cam. And when it drops it at certain RPM, it'll cause uh, harmonic, right? Vibration, harmonic, that will work the seats loose from those heads. All right. Look into it yourself. Maybe I'm giving a half baked answer here because I'm doing this off the top of my head and memory of something that happened about a year ago. But look into it and ask that question. That's what I remember being told to me, that it has to do with the way a roller cam drops the valve back on the seat, and then at certain RPM, that seat in those heads, that material seat in that material head, will work its way loose. It's likely to drop a seat. Um, Squirt McGurk, thank you for the super chat. I have two sets of Olds 350 heads that should be identical, but one pair are so far off that my exhaust manifolds won't bolt up. Yes, I have. Yeah, that's not common to Olds 350s. I've had that, especially Christ. I did a whole video on that. I did a whole video on that a couple of years ago, showing two identical casting number heads, but they had drastically different like port layouts. They looked like they would be two different casting numbers, but no, it was the same casting number. Just the cores were laid out very carefully on one set, and they were just slammed together on the other. And so the bowls were all misshapen, and the height of the exhaust ports was different. So yeah, that was a common thing to come across. Andrew Button, roller cams have more acute angles on the lobes. It causes more banging on the valve train. The seats take the brunt of that. Well, there you go. There's the short answer to something I struggled with. Um, Me Machine Mania, if you were to recommend a daily driver Ford from the 90s onward, what would it be? Uh, I can't really. I mean, all I could do is just go by what I observe. You know, the Panther cars are popular. The SN95 Mustangs, ah, I don't know. I mean, you still have Foxes into the early '90s. The SN95s, so. I mean, it's hard to go wrong with a Ford pickup from that era. You know, so I'm not intimate with those cars, so I can't really spit out a really good answer. Biofly, you got a '95 Caprice wagon LT1. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. It's hard to not love a car like that. Jay Weiss, do you like Christmas music? I hate Christmas music. No, no Christmas music. Um, J.L. Jones, I've heard there is a 1 inch and a 1 and an eighth inch bore master. I'm not sure. You're talking about master cylinder, same master cylinder, but two different bores. The bigger bores for disc brake application. Justin Millington, Tony, on early Top Fuel starters, they didn't have the screw-in dog drive, and the new ones do. Do you know the reason they changed to the screw-in dog drive? Every one of those I ever had the deal that you screw in, and like this the last starter that I had was like originally was Bobby Pickett's from like 1972, 1971, 72. It was a giant deal, and it had the screw in deal on the back to tighten up the dog. Um, so I don't know how far back you would have to go to find a Top Fuel starter that didn't have that. Um, uh, Sid Ryder, what is the latest 2023 power levels of Top Fuel cars? I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue. I mean, I tell you what, it was just estimate. Back when I was doing it, we were in like the 5,000. What they calculated out to be in the 5,000 5,500 horsepower range. Now I don't know. Last numbers I heard were like 10,000. Whatever it is, it's ridiculous. But it's a calculated number. I don't know really how they're going by. I guess they're going by the power speed calculator method. You know what I mean? It runs this mile an hour at this weight, so it should make this much horsepower. I don't know if it applies once you get to that level. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I have absolutely no connection or knowledge to anything nitro related past, let's say, the year 20 2005 or thereabouts. And even so, I parted ways with Big Show Nitro in 1999. So I was up on everything to that point. Like I mean, like hourly, anything that came into the loop, anything that was changed, I was up on, right. Um, I left that circle in 1999. I played with Nitro. I helped several people uh, in the early 2000s, and so Nostalgia Top Fuel, I was very in that loop until around 2008. I want to say, like I wasn't actively out doing it, but a lot of phone work and a lot of like, okay, I'll meet you at the track and we'll screw around with this and screw around with that. So it was that kind of relationship that I had with it. And then from that point forward, I have not a clue. I don't know what anybody's out there doing these days. I don't know how much power they make. I don't know what kind of clutches they got. I don't know what blowers they got. I don't know what cylinder. I know nothing about it. And here's the thing: I have less interest in any of that than I do, let's say, in Volkswagen Bugs. I really have just completely gotten it out of my system. Um, Justin Millen, okay, it was on our family car back in 1970, but over here in England, 392 Hemi Slingshot. Maybe it was just that specific starter. There were a couple of different manufacturers of the starter. Roy RCD. RCD was on was the company, the big company that made the starters, but there were a few different people, a couple of different variations on them. Um, let's see. John Quick, would you ever do an endurance race? You supplying the car? Because if you're supplying the car, sure, I'd love to do that. Um, Justin Billington, I believe it was the same type Paula Murphy had on the STP car. Oh, geez, you're going back to 1970, right? But I'm telling you, that's the same starter that see, you're making me try to remember this now. Had the starter from my car. Starter from my car had that dog, but I don't know the origin of it. It was one that I bought off one of the other racers. Lagana had same starter, same body, same screw-in dog, and his I know came from Bobby Pickett's car. It'll be around 1972. But yeah, I couldn't tell you the lineage of them. All I know is that it was a common thing when I was just getting out of it. All of the mini starters had come in, but I never had a mini starter. I'm sure I started cars with mini starters, but I don't remember any of the details. Tony, do you know top fuel drivers? Nobody is out there today. I couldn't even name them. I don't know. I'm so divorced from it. I'm so completely, I mean, completely divorced from it. I have no idea. I don't know who does what, where, when, how. I know that Schumacher owns cars. I know that Force owns cars. I mean, that's it. That's like literally. I'm telling you, you know more about this stuff than I do. Um, has Cletus invited you to race yet? They run for Crown Vics for an endurance race. No, I'm not on Cletus's radar. I'm not part of the clique. I don't, all of those guys are they're always what's that thing that they're on Snapchat? I think it is. But they're all like I can explain it. There's a network of automotive YouTubers, and they're always constantly in contact with each other. They're always talking back and forth, and I'm not part of that. I don't have Instagram. I don't have the Snapchat. I don't have any of that. So these guys literally have no idea I even exist. Um, let's see. Force is still driving. Okay. Eric Walsh, Mopar 383 popping through the exhaust, but goes away when I disconnect the vacuum advance. Back off the timing 2 degrees. Just go 2 degrees at a clip until it goes away. That's normal. Um, um, Greetings from Detroit. Greetings, Rock. Mean Machines. I think it's fair to say people would go nuts for you to do some old nitro nostalgia stuff. No one on YouTube is putting out good content on how to do that stuff. I found, you know, the chances of me building a car are less than zero, like less than zero. The chances of me traveling any significant distance to participate in anything like that is pretty close to zero. Um, if the circumstance arose that there was somebody in my, let's say, 100-mile radius of where I am now, 200-mile radius, uh, that had a fuel car that wanted help, that needed help, yeah, I would get involved. But that's as far as I would go. That's as far as I would go. And since I don't know anybody in the area, the last long distance relationship I had, nitro relationship I had, was a Nostalgia Top fuel card. It was around 2006, 2007 or thereabouts. It was a Nostalgia Top fuel card that was run out of North Carolina. And I met up with them several times, a couple of times at Indy, a couple of times at Bowling Green. I met up with them a couple of times, but the problem was now what we would talk about over the phone, what we would plan as far as how things were going to be set up on the car when it got to the track. It was never what it was supposed to be. It was like, do you have that pump on there? No, we didn't get that pump back, so we put this pump on there. Did you even have it flowed? No, but it worked good the last time it was on. But how do you know it's still viable? Okay, great. Do you have these nozzles in there? No, we didn't have 80s for that, so we put 75s in there. And it's like, what cam did you put that cam? Where is it? It's in, but I spoke to so and so, and he said to put it in 6 degrees advanced, and you said to put it in 2 degrees retarded. But yeah, but I don't know what the car is going to do if you have it set up in a different way than I'm expecting it to be set up. So now we have to start from scratch, and we got to figure out. So that was the last. That was the last long distance nitro relationship I had, and that made me swear off the whole thing. Um, Olive, you need to go rest some eggs. You and me both, Olive. Happy Turkey Day. Yes. Happy Thanksgiving, Olive. Um, Loud Pipe Saves Lives. Have you been to the Girls Museum? I was at the Girls Museum the week that it opened. I was doing Cars Illustrated, or wait, it was doing Street and Strip Supercar. I was doing one of the magazines back in the day, and I was at the museum the week that it opened, and I've been there several times since. Oh God, we're coming up on 2 hours. Oh man, this goes fast. Um, J.L. Jones, how can I write you my whole C10 break story? It's several paragraphs long. I, I can't you boil it down, man? Can't you boil it down? Give me like just 2 sentences. Grover built hot rod only for. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. This print is dead. Print is over. Print is over. It's kind of sad. It's kind of sad. I did a lot of magazine work back in the day. A lot of it. So I liked. I never liked writing, but I did like the general thing. But I never liked the industry because the industry was just so synthetic and it's a double edged thing for me. I hate to see the magazines go, but on the other hand, I'm kind of glad that they're on the way out. Yes, Steve is doing better. Yeah, Steve has come around. He's in a care facility. He's in a care facility. Uh, he is making progress. He has a lot of therapy to go. Um, the idea of him returning to doing any sort of viable work, let's say within the next couple of months, like January is what according to his family member that I it's not likely, not likely. But he is doing better. He is definitely doing better. Um, Turbo Chen, thank you for the lead acid battery stick welder video you made. Revived my battery perfectly. That was a great video. Well, but I don't. Okay, I don't. It wasn't a great video. The video wasn't great. The video was okay, right? But it took off. It's got like 1.4, 1.5 million views, and it paid really good. I could have bought a couple of hundred batteries with the profit off that one video. So but I'm glad it worked out for you. Uh, let's see. Is the battery still working? I don't know. I kept it around here for, I don't know, like 8 or 10 months, and then my friend John Wilburn was passing through, and he needed a battery, so I said, "Here, take this one." So the last I heard, it was fine. But it's been a long time. I don't know. I'm sure it's okay. Mint Made Muscle. Tony says a new old stock 340 X block for a cool. X only means it was stress relief. It only means that the casting is stress relief. Uh, for a cool 4,000 on marketplace with bottle rockets. No, no. I'll just keep shoveling 318s in it. Um, let's see. 672E Galaxy. Yes, happy Thanksgiving, brother. Uh, Wayne Ferguson, Tony, have you ever heard of the 1941 prototype Ford car made with bioplastic panels where someone hits the trunk panel with a hammer? I wouldn't be surprised. Um, I wouldn't be surprised that they would have played around with stuff like that back then. Yeah, I guess it made it bioplastic. It has to be hemp related. Um, I wouldn't be surprised. Vilify, rear hose can be restricted or clogged. I assume you're talking about a brake system, and yeah, okay, that's very common. A clogged or restricted or collapsed rear brake hose, very common, very very common. They never get replaced. So you notice, like you get a car, like let's say after 8 or 10 years, um, so you do a brake job on it, you notice that the brake hoses are cracked, and so the outer insulation, so you'll change the brake hose. So most cars that are like 10, 20, 30 years old have had the front brake hose changed. But nobody ever changes the back brake hose because they don't exhibit the same thing. The back brake hose only ever moves like this, where the front brake hose moves like this. So the front brake hoses will show their damage and get replaced as just part of the normal routine maintenance. But I have had cars, there's one sitting right there. I've had cars so it's an 1867. It has the original back brake hose still on it. See what I'm saying? The front brake hoses have probably been changed 10 times on that car since it was new. But not 10 times, 4 or 5 times, but it still has the original back brake hose, and I will guarantee it's clogged solid. Oscar Walton, have you ever considered building a 390 stroker for bottle rocket? No, I'm going to stick with the 318 size. To me, that's the definition of that car is the 318. Um, Mexican spec. We haven't seen the Charger recently. I haven't driven it in over a month. But we took it out. We took the. I went to a fall festival thing with the grandkids about a month and a half ago. Like just when fall got started. It was back in September. It was the last time I drove the car. It was just sitting in the driveway. Fred Flintstone. I usually avoid changing the rubber brake hose in the rear for fear of breaking the hard line. There are ways to do it. I should do a video on that. I should do a video on that. There's a way to do it that you will not break the hard line, but you will have a minor explosion. Okay, so you have a choice. You have a choice. Um, you will have a minor explosion, right? Well, so okay, just real quick. Okay, what you do is cut the brake hose as close to the metal fitting as possible. You're not going to be able to get all of the brake hose. Okay. Cut the brake hose as close to the fitting as possible. Then use a MAP gas torch and heat the fitting, right? Heat the fitting that you cut off, right? You know, the brake line is the brake line fitting. Heat that, and also heat the tubing, right? The brake line tubing, the fitting. Heat all of that to like a dull red, maybe even like a slightly brighter red towards the end of the fitting. At some point, when it transitions from dull red to red, it's going to go poof, just like that, okay? Because the brake fluid that gets trapped in there explodes. Okay, so it's going to happen. You just have to know that it's going to happen. And if you know it's going to happen, you're okay with it. You can wear a welding hood if you want. You know what I mean? That won't inhibit you from seeing what you're doing, right? But it will pop. But as it cools down, you can then take just a 3/8 or a 7/16 French, depending on the size of the tubing, and just work it back and forth, boop, 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 like that, and then it'll come right off, and it'll be finger tight. I've been doing it that way for 40 years, right? But it's going to explode. You have to know that it's going to explode, and just be cool with knowing that it's going to explode. Um, Nick Bruni, safe near a gas tank? Well, you got to use your judgment, man. You climb underneath there and you're smelling gas, so you don't want to point. If you smell gas, no, stop. That's a dumb thing to do. You don't want to point the flame at the gas tank. That's a dumb thing to do. All right, you keep your flame pointed against it. What explodes isn't flame that comes out. It's just the the brake fluid just reaches a point and it just goes like that, but no fire comes out of it. Ari, you're checking out. Ari, yeah, I'm gonna check out too. We're over 2 hours. Your phone is dying. Yes, happy Thanksgiving, brother man. Um, I yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up in a minute. I'll see you on Sunday night, Ari. Um, Rule 213 just passed while everyone was looking at that bridge in Buffalo. What is Rule 213? Uh, Wayne Ferguson, hence with Tony has been burned, broken, and bleeding. Bro, I have no original skin left. It's all scar tissue. It's so even that I should look like Freddy Krueger, but I got that good Italian skin that keeps growing back. But yeah, man, it's all scars. Everything is scars. What is Rule 213? Don't leave me hanging here. All right. Well, I'm just gonna have to go online and look up Rule 213. Um, all right. So a date 213. 2:13 p.m. Okay. I don't know. So guys, I'm gonna pack it in. I gotta get to digital money. Rule number three for. Geez, okay. So yeah, I got to get back to the house. Kathy's getting ready for Thanksgiving tomorrow. We got a bunch of people coming over, so I got to do my. I helped. I help. I help. I fix stuff in the bathroom. I did a lot of running around. So I've been doing. Cat, I'm trying. I'm doing my part. Right. I got her food today. Right, twice. So uh, anyway, yeah, we got. I don't make her cook. She does it voluntarily, and she does a great job. Um, I think Dr. Art's coming over tomorrow. We're gonna have fun. We have a nice little get together. Um, so we'll see you guys all on Sunday night. So everybody, happy Thanksgiving. I hope be thankful for something, right? I'm thankful for you guys. You know, so if yeah, I'm thankful that I'm healthy. I'm thankful I got family. I'm thankful I got puppies. I'm thankful I got cars. But I'm thankful for you guys because you guys really make this stuff possible. You know what I mean? Uh, Thank you. What can I say? Thank you. Uh, and I'm always grateful for our mods, Ari, Fubar, Zero. And our mods are going to be with us Sunday Night Live. This Sunday is going to be a very special Sunday Night Live. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're all going to get together for the first time. We're going to use StreamYard, so we'll all be on there together. And so that'll be Sunday night. Please come and join us. It'll be fun. It'll be the first time ever, and hopefully it won't be the last time. Um, and Kiwi is going to jump in there too. But yeah, everybody have a happy Thanksgiving tomorrow. And everybody contributed super chat. Guys, thank you so much. Always appreciated. Never expected, always appreciated. Everybody contributed with just your presence and your conversation. Thank you equally. And I'm going to hit the out button now, and I will see you guys Sunday night, 7 o'clock. Be there. Sunday. Good night, guys.